Senator Bernie Sanders dodged a question today about whether his debate tag team with Senator Elizabeth Warren was planned. The progressive frontrunners appeared side by side night one in Detroit. The two chose not to go after one another. Instead, they defended their similar agendas and helped move the conversation about policy to the left. Sanders appeared on CBS This Morning today, and he was asked if there was a deal struck between him and Warren to not attack each other, at least on this stage. And here was his response.
Look, Elizabeth and I have been friends for over 20 years. She's running her campaign, and I'm running my campaign. They're different campaigns. But I think the most effective way to campaign, to be honest with you, is to talk to the American people about why the middle class is disappearing, why we have massive income and wealth inequality, the nature, the great challenge we face in terms of climate change, the thievery that's now going on within the pharmaceutical industry, where there is not only price fixing, but there is just incredible greed. You talk about those issues, you do well. You try to beat up on somebody else. Frankly, I don't think it's good politics.
And joining me now is Briahna Gray. She is the National Press Secretary for Senator Bernie Sanders' campaign. Hi, Briahna. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So we just heard Senator Sanders there not really answer the question. Was there a little handshake deal between the two senators? And it's no big deal if there was.
Look, I think what you saw the other night was how much
you can't say yes or no?
No, look, what you saw is the divide that has emerged within the Democratic Party and how left the party has come since the days of yesteryear. Look,
so are they working together on that?
No, I think what you saw was that there was a certain commonality when it comes to left politics. And that when you're talking about the issues, particularly the issues that matter the most to the American people, you are going to get a divide between folks who are issue-focused, who look at the poll numbers and say, hey, Medicare for All has upwards of 70% popularity, according to some polls. Even a slim majority of Republicans like it. And there's some people who are committed to the stances that they've taken, supportive of Medicare for All and Bernie Sanders' bill, and other people who have taken this opportunity to try to make a room for themselves down the centrist lane that I think they're going to see is not very effective. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren were standing next to each other in the middle because they're polling the best in this race. And that's a real, demonstration of how powerful left politics are.
But at some point, they are going to have to go after each other.
At some point, they're going to have to draw distinctions between their campaigns, and there are distinctions to be drawn. But in the case like Tuesday night, when we saw so many questions that were framed as you would expect them to be seen on Fox News, these right-wing framings about how, not just asking substantively how you're going to pay for it, but how you're going to sell socialism to the Midwest, as though there isn't this long history of left politics in places like Detroit,
right,
in places like Milwaukee, in places where the labor movement was born and thrived in this country. I think that there was a real short-sightedness with these kinds of
So how are they going to go about making the distinction without using the Republican talking points, without using the Fox News talking points, as you put it? They will have to distinguish for voters, their records and each candidate's differences. So can we expect to see them highlight those differences in September?
I think Bernie Sanders all along has been highlighting the extent that his candidacy is about a movement. It's not me, it's us. And I think there's no other candidate who has hit that drum that hard.
But if your candidacy is about a movement, then you'd be willing to hand the mantle to somebody else happily if it's not about you as the candidate.
It's not about a mantle. When we say it's about a movement, it's about the fact that Tuesday and Wednesday night during these debates, we had 100,000 individual donations totaling $2 million from people who liked what they saw on that stage and who wanted to participate in a broad grassroots movement. These are donations of very small average donations. Our average donation size is $19.
That is very impressive. And where are the bulk of your donations coming from?
The biggest single contributor to our campaign are people who work for Walmart. And that's no surprise given the advocacy that Bernie Sanders has done for those employers to get a living wage.
Did you see any particular areas increase in donations after the debate?
It was all over the country. I know that there was at least a spike in California, which might be surprising considering that there are candidates from California in this race. But it really has been a broad grassroots movement. When you look at the map, there's blue dots all over the place, and that's really heartening for us in our campaign.
There's not one region that you're really focusing on saying, hey, we really need to wake voters up there to Bernie's message?
Well, what we know is that voters in key states like Michigan have long been incredibly supportive of Bernie Sanders.
And you're right about Michigan. It's going to be very, very important in 2020.
It is, and that's why people who are concerned about electability should be thinking long and hard about Bernie Sanders, because that's a state that he carried against a lot of people's expectations, but it shouldn't have been surprising if they were paying attention to the fact that Bernie Sanders has been right on trade, and the people of Detroit and Michigan more broadly haven't forgotten that he hasn't had to revise his history in the way that other candidates
He
have
actually
had
talked
to
about
do.
that during the debate. I think we have sound from that. Let's play it now if we can.
The truth is that every credible poll that I have seen has me beating Donald Trump, including the battleground states of Michigan, where I won the Democratic primary, Wisconsin, where I won the Democratic primary, and Pennsylvania. And the reason we are going to defeat Trump and beat him badly is that he is a fraud and a phony, and we're going to expose him for what he is.
So Senator Sanders mentioned certain very important states. So is the campaign going to focus on these Rust Belt states, and especially this month of August?
No, of course there's going to be a focus on states that are strategically important. But one of the things that I really love about the Bernie Sanders campaign is that doesn't mean you're going to ignore states that are less strategically important, but which have a lot of need. You know, when I met Bernie Sanders, it was in Mississippi, which is known as a deep red state, but it's a state that is also the blackest state in this country. And one of the things that he said to me during that trip where he was there commemorating the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King's assassination was that we can't leave states like this behind. Mississippi is a state where if you got just 15% of the white vote, you could carry it. And so I think what you're going to see is a 50-state strategy from Bernie Sanders, and that's exactly how we're going to fuel this coalition and win this election.
I want to ask you, though, about health care. Obviously, a very, very important topic for voters going into 2020. It did help the Democrats take over, the House in 2018. So clearly, it's a winning issue for Democrats. But now sort of the details of health care are being put on the table in a way that they weren't during the midterms. Right. So do you worry now that everybody has all of these different health care plans to choose from, that Sanders' plan may be too progressive for the bulk of general election voters?
So I'm actually very heartened that we're finally having a conversation about the details, because the devil's in the details, and the details are where Bernie Sanders shines. Like he said last night or the other night, he wrote the damn bill. he knows what's in it. And unfortunately, a lot of the other candidates who were co-signers on the Medicare for All bill, who have been running on that bill because it's so popular, have now started to back away from it. And I think that that's something that they're going to have to defend as we take the details of this plan to the American people. How the 4-year rollout means that in year one, people 55 and older are all going to be on Medicare. Right. Then age 54 and older, 35 and older, everybody under 18 has full Medicare for all in the first year of the plan. These are the details the American people need to know that this isn't a pie-in-the-sky dream. This is a very thoughtful plan, and a plan that we'll be hearing more and more about in the coming weeks.
I will say the Sanders strategy is consistent. It is unapologetically progressive, and it has always been so, and it will maintain that is the winning strategy.
Absolutely.
As other Democrats seem to flip-flop about that. I want to play something that Joe Biden said today about health care, because he was asked about it. Let's listen.
There's nothing moderate about what Barack did in Obamacare. Nothing. No president had come close. And they tried and they tried and they tried. 7 presidents. This guy did an incredible thing. In addition to that, he covered 100 million people who had pre-existing conditions. He allowed kids to stay in their parents' policies until they're 26 years old. He covered 20 million more people. We tried to get the Medicare option added to it. We couldn't get it done. I will get it done this time because the people have realized what it's about.
So we just heard Biden say there was nothing moderate about Obamacare, but it didn't go far enough for Senator Sanders, correct?
Well, what Bernie Sanders what Barack Obama managed to do was incredible. It was incredible for the time. But the purpose isn't just to keep running on somebody else's record. We have established an incredible amount of gains. 20 million additional people insured under the ACA. And now it's time to get to the rest of Americans, all of whom deserve universal comprehensive health care.
All right, Briahna Gray, thank you so much for coming to see us. We really appreciate it.